In order to find the quotient, we're going to divide everything inside the parentheses by x. So to do that, I'm going to write an x underneath each of the terms. Now we just have to cancel out. So I don't have any numbers on the bottom, so that 2 is going to stay. And if I have 2 x's on top and 1 on bottom, then one of them will cancel out and I'll just be left with x. In other words, 2 minus 1 is 1. Next, I have a plus 2 on top. There's no numbers on bottom. 1x on top and 1x on bottom are going to cancel out completely, and I still have a y. Last, I have a plus sign, and x divided by x cancels out, but we have to write a 1 there. It works just like numbers. If you got 5 over 5, that would equal 1, right? Or 10 over 10 equals 1. It doesn't equal 0 and go away. So the same thing happens with x. X divided by x is 1. So make sure you put a 1 there and you don't leave it blank. And we don't have any like terms we can combine, so that's the final answer. Let's see if you can try example B on your own. Hopefully you got this for your final answer. What happens is those 5's cancel out and they really equal 1, but you don't have to write that 1 right there. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Nothing cancels the x out, and 1y is left. And then last, 5 divided by 5 is 1, and the y over y is also 1. Same procedure here, it's just the problem's written a little differently. This line underneath everything means we're dividing all those terms by 3y. So I still want to write a 3y underneath each term. You can kind of see that the 3y that's typed is already underneath the 12xy. So I'm just going to go ahead and write another one under the first term and another one under the last term. That way each term has the 3y underneath it, and we'll go through and start canceling. So 3 over 3 cancels out to 1, but we don't have to write it. We have an x, but nothing on the bottom cancels it out. Y to the second over y to the first is just y to the first. Next, positive 12 divided by 3 is positive 4. Nothing cancels that x out, and the y's eliminate each other. Last, we have negative 6 divided by 3. That gives us negative 2, and those y's cross out. So this is your final answer. Go ahead and try B and see if you get the same thing as me. Your final answer is 4 over 2, which is 2. Y to the third minus y to the first is y to the second. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. There's 1 y left over, and 6 divided by 2 is positive 3, and those y's cross out. One last example. We have everything inside those parentheses. It all needs to be divided by 2x. So I'm going to write a 2x underneath each term and cancel out what I can cancel out. As far as numbers go, I have a 1 in front of that x squared, so I need to simplify 1 over 2. And that's as low as it gets, so I'm going to have a 1 over 2. Next, x to the second over x to the first is an x, and it's going to be on top. So you could write your x on top there. You could have 1x over 2, or you could just have x over 2. But what answer keys are going to look like is they're going to put 1/2 and then the x kind of in the middle next to it. That's the way you'll see answer keys written. So we'll keep going. We have a 2 on top and a 2 on bottom. That cancels to 1. I'm not going to write it. X divided by x, those cancel out, and we're just left with a y. For the last, we have 2 divided by 2. That's 1, and those x's cancel out. So this is the final answer. Last, let's see if you can get the correct answer for this one. For this last problem, hopefully you got 1/3 in front of the y squared because there's a 1 on top and 1/3 doesn't reduce. The x's cancel out and you're left with y squared. Next, 9 divided by 3 is 3. The x's cancel out and you're left with y to the third. And last, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and those x's also cancel out. The only thing left we could do to this particular answer is make sure we've written it in standard form, which means the exponents have to go from high to low. So it's not in standard form. We need to flip-flop so that the 3y to the third comes first, then the 1/3 y squared comes second, and then the plus 1 at the end comes third. So that would be your final answer.